It's like the 407 7th over there at Arrowhead Drive. And if you don't know what that it means, that's a hospital on wheels. It is hurting. They are hurting. What do the Chiefs do about it today? On Locked On Chiefs with Matt Derrick.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Your first listen, make sure that you check out another Locked On show for your next one, because that's what we do on this network every day, all the time, no matter what. Thanks for being an everyday listener and being on our text line at 816-357-8781. This is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, our man on the ground, a credentialed media member, the leader of the PFWA in Kansas City, which I am a member of as well, if you guys don't know that. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL 33 and RGR Football. Lot to get to in this show, and if you didn't catch it, I hear that there's a MASH reboot coming, quote unquote, because Hollywood's out of ideas completely. But if you don't get the MASH reference, that is a mobile military hospital, and that's what the Chiefs need right now. So we're going to talk about everything that goes into that this week, Raiders week, as we get ready for those Las Vegas black and silver guys. Matt will give you his prediction later in the show. I will hold off until a couple of days. In between then and now, we're also going to talk about the hottest name in Chiefs Kingdom and around the NFL. One, Cooper, I'm not as broken as you think I am, Kupp, and what his value might be in Kansas City, etc. But we have to start with the fact that the Chiefs have made some moves today. Like, sub, and get over to Matt's channel at Chiefs Digest, as well as ours, Matt. A plethora of them. Nothing makes me sadder than the 6 weeks that was the love affair with Bailey Zappi and myself on this practice squad. And now it's come to a crashing halt thanks to the Cleveland Browns. I still will never forgive you, Cleveland. Not the most impactful move. They did place Jaylen Watson onto IR. They signed a couple of familiar names. It is Keith Taylor back to the practice squad. To the active roster. Is Chris Ludicon and Cornell Powell back to the practice squad. Of any of those moves, anything surprise you there?
Not really. I mean, and I think one of them is pretty telling, because, if there was a receiver out there that the Chiefs believed was available, that was receptive to their offers, that they thought could come in and help them, that player would be on the practice squad over Cornell Powell. So that tells you right there that if you're looking at the free agent group that's out there, is what the Chiefs are addressing for that wide receiver spot. I mean, they don't necessarily see that there's anybody out there that can come in and help them, that would take a practice squad spot that's not already here. So I think that kind of, if your thought was that there's some free agent out there that the Chiefs could bring in to compete and help them out, I think that this pretty much closes the door on that. I mean, the Chiefs are going with what they've got and with the guys that have some experience. So Cornell coming back, I think is pretty indicative of that. Doesn't close the door on some trades, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But everything else makes sense. I expected, Keith Taylor to be the guy that's a veteran. That's that if they need him, can absolutely play multiple spots in that secondary, especially from the cornerback spot. I'm expecting, Najee Johnson to be the starter in place of Jaylen Watson, but doesn't mean that hey, there's not going to be a rotation in there. Some other guys might get chances. Obviously Joshua Williams, Chris Rollins has Chris Rollins Smith has earned his opportunities. I can't, gosh, there's too many names, I guess, today, Brian, but hey, those guys have run their chance, but we'll see what happens. But and I expect that the Chiefs will probably go with some practice squad elevations for the receiver spot this week with Juju out. So let's see what happens. But, for week 8, I think the die is cast as far as what this roster looks like.
Yeah, it does feel like that to me as well. And I can't say that it was a bad move here. Keith Taylor was pushing for a starting role at points in training camp. Obviously didn't end up winning out then and has been in reserve. And I'm glad that they kept him because he fits what I think they're looking for. Another former Washington player, the length, the physicality, the turn and go speed, much like a lot of the other corners on this roster, is not elite, but it's good enough. And this does feel like very much insurance to make sure that you have your stereotypical Chiefs corner with another depth spot if you have to go to Joshua Williams and you're unsatisfied with his performance. I wonder if they're not trying to get there right now and let Najee kind of acclimate a little bit more. But do you think there's a role for Keith Taylor immediately against this Raiders team?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that, obviously the Chiefs will, I think, do some matchups as far as, especially with that maybe second and third cornerback spot. Jamari Connor's still going to be, one of your key slot guys, but you're kind of right. I mean, as far as, when the Chiefs are in some of their multiple defensive back sets, which obviously those substitution packages are pretty much all the time, I think Taylor does give them kind of a flexibility to play some different, rotations, different looks. Doesn't have to be the same, 3 or 4 guys out there every single time. They're going to, do with what, is the best matchup that week. So there might be some times that it's going to be a Keith Taylor game. It might be sometimes when you're going to see more Joshua Williams. They've got, as once again, Andy Reid would like to say, different body types, different flavors in that cornerback spot. So they can mix and match, do what they think is best from a matchup standpoint that week. And this is just another move that gives them flexibility in that regard.
I like the flexibility, and I agree with you on the practice squad elevations at the other position of need here, wide receiver. I do anticipate some of that coming. I'm really interested to see who that becomes. But as you mentioned, there are other moves yet to be made and a lot of talk about one Los Angeles-based receiver in particular that I find a little bit outlandish. I'm going to tell you guys why right after this. The atmosphere at Arrowhead is unique. There's nothing like it. Nowhere more in the world that you want to watch a ball game than right there from those seats. Finding those seats is always interesting. It makes it super easy to use Gametime. It's all in pricing, so you never get hit with anything strange. You don't get surprised at checkout. You get to see the view from every seat in the stadium, so you know exactly what that ball game is going to look like when you're sitting there. And they offer the lowest price guarantee. You find it cheaper somewhere else, they'll give you 110% of the difference right there on the spot. All you got to do is get the Gametime app. So go download it, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Again, all you got to do is create an account and use the code. It's LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $20 off. Go down that Gametime app today. What time is it? Gametime. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that 50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Gametime app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that 50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at Prize Picks. It's always fun and games around here, and it's an interesting game to play when you're talking about the trade deadline. Matt, it's creeping towards us. It's a couple of weeks away, and there is no hotter name right now than one Cooper Kupp, formerly of Eastern Washington, an LA native since being drafted by the Rams, that now seems to be on the way to be parted from that organization. A lot of speculation, and I have ignored most of it until today, for a couple of reasons we'll get into. But now we're hearing from multiple sources, including Diana Rossini, Charles Robinson, reporting that the Rams are now willing to eat some of that contract for Cooper Kupp right now, maintain that. He is currently, I believe, on a guarantee of $20 million, the peak, I believe, of his contract in this season. That changes the math for me a little bit, although I still have some serious concerns. Do you put any more credence to the Chiefs being interested in a 31, nearly 32-year-old receiver who hasn't been eligible to play in 5 games due to injury. Is it even on the radar in Kansas City?
It's probably on the radar. I certainly don't see a lot of smoke, but I also see a lot of complications with it. Why it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, with the money that Cooper Kupp still has, paid to him, and you mentioned it. I mean, there is $20 million guaranteed between this season and next. Now it gets a little bit easier to swallow, once you say get through the next couple of weeks. Obviously, there's not going to be a trade this week. Every team in the NFL wants to see what Cooper Kupp looks like on Thursday night, see if he can play. Might even need a second one because it sounds like he's going to be on a snap count on Thursday night's game. So maybe he's going to need 2 games before you see it. If something were to get done at the trade deadline for Cooper Kupp, I mean, he still has $7.5 million due this season and $5 million due next year. The Rams will have already paid 7.5 of it out. So a team that's going to acquire him is going to be acquiring basically $12.5 million, and you're going to walk away after the season because there's an out in the contract, and no way are you picking up Cooper Kupp for $29 million cap hit in 2025. So it's a 1 year, half year rental for basically $12.5 million. If the Rams are going to eat some contract to make it possible to fit under the Chiefs and their $4.25 million of cap space, they're going to have to eat more like, 8 to get. Now, some of that $5 million, because it's due next year, it's part of the roster bonus. Okay, it's $7.5 million this year. So the Rams would have to eat probably about $4 million. Is that what they're, as much as they're willing to eat? We don't know. When they say they want a second, let's face it, they're not talking about the Chiefs' second because everybody in the league pretty much views the Chiefs' second as a third. So if they're saying that they want a second, when it comes to the Chiefs, it'll be second plus. They don't want a Chiefs late round second. They want a mid-round second. So you'd have to upgrade that with something else. I don't know if the Chiefs are totally interested in that. So I see a lot of complications. And then to your point, he's 31 years old. And I think you associate a lot of things with the Cooper Kupp name that just aren't there anymore. He had a great Hall of Fame season at 28. He's 31 now, and he has had a decreasing performance by the year. So it's an underperforming asset that's overpriced. I mean, that's how I think a lot of teams are going to view him. So unless the Rams can both, 1, make him more affordable, and 2, come down on their asking price, I don't know if Cooper Kupp is going anywhere. And he's also obviously going to have to prove it in these next game or two that he's fully healthy. So there's a lot of things that would have to come together. And I think if you're still the Chiefs, you'd have to be really crossing your fingers that this works out.
I have to agree. And the price has got to be completely right. And there's no way they give up a second for this kind of asset that is a 1-year rental for all that it's in intents and purposes. It comes back to what he can do for you, because this is, a sellout year for that 3-peat. Pull the stops. I don't care what the penalties are. You got to go get history as far as I'm concerned. And if Brett Veach and Andy Reid are in the same mentality, I could see something trying to get worked so that maybe they go beyond what they normally would do. But it comes back to the value of the player. And when you look at that, it was 2,400 yards receiving in 2021. 800 after that, 700 after that. He's played 2 games yet this season. Is he damaged goods at this point?
I mean, the numbers tell you that he's past his peak. And I'm not going to say that he's washed, but I think that there's certainly the reputation out there and the possibility that he is. And the one thing for sure is that he's not the player that he's being paid like anymore. Now, granted, like we've talked about, what you would have to acquire for him is not what it would have been. But you're also, I've seen the comparison, and I get it, talking about like Odell Beckham when he went to the Rams and the impact that he made in their Super Bowl season. Well, one, he was Odell Beckham Jr. As good as Cooper Kupp's 2021 season was, that was 1 year. I mean, over the bulk of his career, Odell Beckham Jr. has been a much better player. And he was in his prime. I know he was coming off the knee surgery, but he was 28. He's not 31. And he was a different type of receiver in a different type of offense. I think it's if you go on Andy Reid's 25-year history, and you look at the players of varying skill sets that have come in, and granted, I think it's tough because maybe there hasn't been a player quite like a Cooper Kupp that's would be coming in, but they just never work out. And the biggest part of it is that, an Andy Reid offense is complicated. What the Rams are doing, not as complicated. And if you were plugging in an Odell Beckham, that might be different. But Cooper Kupp at 31 is not Odell Beckham Jr. at 28.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And there are some other longer shots we can discuss if they raise their head, but this has been raising its head today. I don't think this is going to end up happening. And if it does, I will be braced for what the output will eventually become. Much like you have to do if you happen to be a Las Vegas Raiders fan. They made some moves today and trying to get ready for the Chiefs. We're going to get to those and what they mean coming up next. Hey there, NFL fans. You can get started right now with a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Takes the life out of your middle there. And so when you have that hunch in the middle of a ball game or in the middle of the day on a packed Sunday with a full slate, you can check the latest stats, check out the live play-by-play, and get that so deep into the game that you can make your decisions and go on the same page to place your bets. Makes life super simple. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's over at FanDuel. There's a lot of options there, especially when Patrick's throwing interceptions early or we're running the ball really good. You never know what's going to happen, but if you have a gut feeling, check it out at FanDuel.com. Matt, Raiders Week is always unique, and I know you cover it excellently at ChiefsDigest.com, and you can find Matt on his channel here on YouTube at ChiefsDigest.com. And for everybody out there listening, make sure you like and sub and join us here. I have this problem with AFC West foes because even when you think they're down, they're not out. And this Raiders team is definitely wounded. They made a move today to put one of their quarterbacks, doesn't matter which because they're the same guy in my opinion, onto IR. And they brought in Desmond Ridder off of a practice squad. He is likely as good an option as they have at quarterback going into this week as anybody else in my book. And that tells you where they're at in terms of the quarterback. Now, they still have some excellent players. Devontae Adams obviously departed. You still have Max Crosby, although the health situation there, I'm guessing not 99%. I'm guessing a lot less than that. I don't know if they're able to put up the fight that they've done in the past. How do you read the Raiders, and how dangerous are they as the wounded animal they appear to be?
Well, you've hit on my concern about this game, which is that, and especially with, divisional foes where there's at least some semblance of still a rivalry. And let's face it, there's still trash talking between these two teams that exist because of the frequency with which they see each other. And Antonio Pierce is absolutely trying to gear his team up this week to get them to believe that they can win this game. And, we're going to be talking on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about puppets and who's settling what with whom and who's dealing with what, we're going to have some of those, little issues this week. The intangibles, the motivation, it's still going to be on the Raiders side to a degree. The Chiefs know that they got the bullseye on their back just like they do every week. And let's face it, at home in front of their crowd where the Chiefs won the Super Bowl just a few months ago, this organization, the Raiders organization, needs this game. They want to win this one. And we'll see how many Chiefs fans are in Allegiant Stadium. We know that can kind of turn into, with these games, it can sometimes be a road environment for the Raiders. So we'll see how much the hardcore Raiders fans show up. I think it's going to be a big game. And, and for that organization, it's going to be lively. So we'll see, which team shows up. You're right. The Raiders, they got probably a few guys that I would say fit into the category of they've got maybe a third-degree sprain of their contracts. There's probably some guys that would like to be playing for a contender and know that the trade deadline's coming up. So that's probably going to be on the top of some guys' minds. And Chiefs, if you're a long-term Chiefs fan, you've seen this before. You know that occasionally a team that has no business beating a good team pops out of nowhere. And you blink, and the next thing you know, Desmond Ridder's throwing for 300 yards and and taking you down. You can't lack focus this week. You can't overlook this team. You've got to play with the same, motivation and effort and energy that you have every week. That's hard to do when you're facing a down and out opponent, but the Chiefs are going to have to do it this week if they want to keep the unbeaten streak alive.
And I know that they do. I have trouble visualizing a scenario where they don't get this done. But as our first prediction of the week, and your ultimate wisdom that you display on us every Wednesday, folks, you can catch Matt here every Wednesday. How does this game go down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to break my pledge of not predicting a big Chiefs win until they blow somebody out. And 10 points over the Niners wasn't a blowout win. I mean, that was exactly what I thought they might do against the Niners. So, that was kind of in keeping. But so I can't go out and believe, even though I think the Chiefs are probably 24 points better than the Raiders right now. I can't go out on that limb. I'm going to be moderately conservative and say Chiefs 27, Raiders 16. But it wouldn't surprise me also if it was Chiefs 27, Raiders 9. What would it take for the Raiders to win this game? Honestly, a lot of Chiefs errors, a lot of mistakes. I mean, the Raiders are going to have to win the turnover battle. They can't turn the football over themselves. For the Chiefs, I mean, they need to get right. They need Mahomes to have. This should be a get right game for Mahomes. This should be a week where he's able to, throw it a little bit more free, for a little bit more easy. Get the numbers up, kind of get it. Because I didn't think he played that badly against the Niners, but Niners have a good defense. Mm-hmm. Kept him from throwing any touchdowns in the red zone. So, Chiefs need to get over that hurdle. If they can remain the efficiency and just be more productive than they were last week against San Francisco, this should be an easy victory.
Let's hope that that's the way it goes down. Folks, you're going to hear my prediction on Friday as we break down our preview of this ball game. It's looking fun, and it's looking like it's going to be a great one to track depending on who's on the roster. You can find that all at Chiefs Digest. Here on RGR Football, we have all kinds of places for you, so make sure that you like, sub, hit the bell, get on that. Thanks for being with us, and Matt, thanks for breaking it down as you always do.
Always a pleasure, Ryan. Take care, my friends.
Have a great day, everybody. Make sure that you are subscribed and ready for tomorrow. You everydayers, we love you. And if you want in that text line, get it 816-357-8781. We'll be back. We'll talk to you tomorrow.